Good morning, friends. Thanks for joining this morning. This is Journey Home Meditation, and we're here for the morning sit today. We might have a little bit of poetry this morning, maybe share a few thoughts, but mostly this practice today is going to be just a breathing practice. So settle in. Thanks for joining, and I'm happy to be here. So yes, today we are going to be sort of coming back to one of the basics of our practice. I know sometimes on this morning program, I find myself getting into thoughts that take me down these long trains of ideas. I don't know. It's a processing time for me, and it's as well a way that I sort of piece together, both for myself and to share with others, the connecting points, right? The intersections and the ways that all of these seemingly disparate things, right? These compartmentalized boxes of being, how they interconnect. Uh, and so, what might seem like, you know, a dysfunctional way of thinking, um, when we really start to inspect it as part of the whole, right? The dynamics shift, and we can piece together a little bit better the narrative, the story of why we do what we do, and really we are, I believe, propelled by stories. The stories that we carry about who we are or who we think we are, who we should be, really does play a major part in the ways that we interact with other humans, the ways that we interact with ourselves. Uh, and so that's tends to be the motivation for the contemplation aspect of Journey Home's morning sit. Um, but first and foremost, this is about sharing a practice. And just like the word practice indicates, right, this is something we are going to be doing again and again, uh, not to achieve an end goal of perfection, but to become more fluid in our processes. Right. This is this is what practice is about. Practice is understanding that we're not coming from a place of already achieving some. I don't want to use the word perfect again because this is a pretty subjective uh, way of seeing it, but a practice is not only the thing that we do with intention. We are practicing all of the time. We are practicing something all of the time. It's the way that we do things over and over again, habitually, that form our personalities, that form our ways of handling confrontation. Um, Practice is, I think, maybe best defined as the repeated action or thought that one has. That's pretty much it, right? When you are practicing piano, you sit down every day and you set aside a time and you practice movements with your hands. And when you begin, it's very simple, very basic. And then as you progress in your practice, you can do more complex and more complicated things. Um, but as you do that practice, if you are practicing something in a way that is maladaptive, then you're going to have this maladaptive way that you begin to do things habitually. I hope that makes sense. Maybe it's getting a little too heady, but essentially it comes down to this. The reason that I have this practice that I have of conscious breathing and intentional calm, right? Intentionally inviting calm into my life is because I have not practiced that in my life, and it has led to confusion and it has led to suffering and stress and discomfort and uh, poor relationship skills, uh, poor emotional skills. I don't have language or understanding of emotional fluctuations, right, built into me because my practice was to avoid suffering from my most of my life since I was a child. When I learned that we're not supposed to share pain with other people, you learn that when people tell you that you're bringing people down, or we need to stay positive, or when somebody says, with the best of intentions, that, oh, when you're sad, it makes me sad, it hurts my heart. How can I make you not sad? Well, the idea of being made not sad or not to have pain instructs us that the pain is something that people don't want and you shouldn't have. So we spend most of our lives avoiding suffering and avoiding pain. And we do that through maladaptive means. Dissociation is a major one that many of us do. Um, and as far as dissociation and pain, uh, we often quickly associate pain with physical pain, and we discount or minimalize emotional pain. This happens with almost as many people as I know. And the problem there is, emotional pain and physical pain share the same body, and they share the same networks for communicating. So when we learn to dissociate from emotional pain, we are also learning to dissociate from physical pain, and vice versa. And dissociating from our pain long enough as a practice takes us to a place where we all of a sudden don't have any association with our body. Like I often would joke that I live from the neck up, right? I live in my head. I'm very much a dreamer type of person who can be caught daydreaming. I love poetry. I love art and abstract and things that I can do in my head. But I have not had a long time practice of the somatic practices of bringing it into my body, the way that my body moves and feels, and how my body is processing these things as well as my mind. This for myself has led to eating disorders. It's led to an unhealthy relationship with risk. I have very low risk aversion because I don't have a good gauge for pain. And it's also led to chronic pain disorders that I've had in my life. And so, with my practice of dissociation and avoidance for most of my life, I've gotten really good at that. I've gotten really proficient at doing that. And that's costed me uh, a lot of time and energy in relationships with others. It's costed me having the ability to maintain long lasting and sustainable programs in my life, whether it's jobs or hobbies or friendships, relationships, um, workout programs, whatever it is. Um, I have practiced and developed jumping around a lot. And so, uh, years ago, when I first started understanding uh, the possibilities that come with intentional breath, I started learning how to resociate, how to reconnect to my body simply through breathing. It didn't have to require any extra tools. I didn't have to purchase anything. I didn't have to drive anywhere or show up on time. I didn't have to keep a set schedule. It's something that I learned that I could do at any moment that it crosses my mind. I could add a little bit of awareness and intention to my breath. And what I've learned through both study, reading different studies on the physiology of breath and the biology of our human body, uh, as well as what I've learned through experimentation with myself, is that simply breathing in through my nose to the bottom of my belly, right to the lowest part of my abdomen, within 3 or 4 breaths, I can begin to come into relaxation. And relaxation is key for health. Relaxation is key for healing. Relaxation is a signifier that you feel safe. It's very, very difficult to relax. I would nearly say impossible to relax if you feel unsafe. And that feeling of unsafety may be in your mind, like it may be a mental unsafety, not in your mind as in you're making it up, but in our psychology and our makeup, the way that our thoughts work can make us unsafe. It could be in your emotional state. You might have an unsafe relationship with your emotional fluctuations, and it makes it difficult to maintain any relationships, whether it's friendships, intimate romantic relationships, family relationships, work relationships. Having an unsafe relationship with your own emotional body can make that tumultuous, make it very difficult. Or it could be an unsafe physical relationship. Um, Maybe you have uh, an addiction to, or a practice of causing self harm or pain to your body. This is not uncommon, it's very common. And we do that through different means. There are different ways that we cause self harm. Probably one of the most common is through eating disorders, overeating, undereating, um, different ways that we will intentionally bring a bit of pain and harm to our bodies as a coping mechanism for some sort of a dysfunctional relationship that we're having with a part of ourselves. Uh, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's how we cope, and coping is necessary when you are in survival mode. It's that simple. The things that you do to survive, um, they're myriad. The number of ways that we have to find or create a level of safety in our lives is so subconscious that we don't even think of it as this. We don't even think of it as finding safety when we are um, making the choices that we make in our day. But most of our choices, many of our choices, especially if you are a person who has a difficult time finding safety um, with yourself and with your relationships, um, most of our choices are motivated by that. And when we're talking about safety, we're not. There's often a question that's asked in a needs questionnaire. Do you feel safe? Do you have a safe? Do you feel safe at home? Do you feel safe in your relationship? And the automatic association is someone in your home physically hurting you, or are they aggressive? Um, and so, if you don't have a person who's violent or a person who is harmful to you, you'll say, "Yes, I'm safe at home." But a reality could be on a deeper level that it has nothing to do with the person that you're with. A reality could be that your safety has very little to do with the settings that you're in. It has more to do with your relationship to yourself. I'm not saying that you can be safe in a physically abusive space. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is you can be unsafe in a physically safe space. Um, Many of us are. And I was for a very long time living with a pretty consistent level of unsafety with myself. I could mask it and I could cope with it through different means, whether those means were sarcasm or alcohol or anger, righteous anger, many different things. But the breath work is what really brought me back into my own body. And once I could start embodying especially with my belly. I have this relationship with my belly that is so filled with a lifetime of guilt and shame and resentment, because I'm a large bodied person. And it's difficult for large bodied people in our culture sometimes. Some people in our culture with large bodies have a difficult time loving ourselves. Sometimes we have a difficult time relating to other people, and we have a difficult relationship with what it means to try, whether it's trying to do something physical and matching your peers in their abilities, or whether it's trying to have a certain style of clothing and dress that you want to present as, but having a difficult time finding clothes that fit or that look as good on you in your mind as it does on somebody else that you see. These elements, right, of body dysphoria, uh, they can lead to unsafety with your relationships. So when I learned that breathing into the belly and that the belly growing larger was the healthiest way to move forward, I had a difficult time with that. It took me some time to be able to uh, allow my belly to release from sucking in my gut all the time, literally all of the time. From the moment I awake to the moment I go to bed, I have this hold on my gut. And in doing that, holding my guts in, I'm only breathing into my chest. And when I'm only breathing into my chest, I'm signifying to the body that I need to have some level of adrenaline being introduced and some level of cortisol because I'm unsafe. Breathing into our chest, gulping air with our mouth is a function that human beings have that give us a physical advantage in violent interactions. This is one of the reasons we can do things like persistence hunting. There's hunters that will literally outrun deer, not by being faster, but by being able to sustain themselves longer because of the way that we can breathe. We can breathe in our mouth into our chest. We can hold oxygen longer. We can oxygenate our bodies easier. But in doing this, we're also triggering our central nervous system to say we are doing something of vast importance that has got a level of danger. Our central nervous system listens. It does what it's told. And so we are breathing in a way that keeps us constantly in our defensive spaces. It inflames our joints. It makes our bodies hurt, which further makes us want to dissociate from the way our body feels because we don't feel good. And then we don't have any relationship with that. So we're no good at feeling. So when you don't feel good and you dissociate, you become no good at feeling. You can't feel yourself, the intricacies of your body. So simply breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. Just try it with me. There's nothing that's real special about what you have to do, but you want to hold yourself in a way that makes it easier to breathe. So let's breathe in through the nose, letting the belly fill and release. When we release that air, you really want to let it all out. Holding back, retaining that retention, that can make it difficult to let go of things. And this is letting go on a physical level, which is an emotional level, which is a mental level, right? Our psychology, our emotions, our physiology, all of it is connected because you are the central aspect, right? You're the center of the Venn diagram right there. Everything crosses over. You are the intersection of all of these things. So just a couple breaths, breathing in through the nose and release. Breathing in and release. Breathing in and release. Notice the way that your body starts to shift as you just take those few breaths. So this practice of intentionally bringing your focus to your breath is doing a lot of things all at once. But first and foremost, it is reassociating with your body. Right? You are connecting the thing that you do all day anyway. There's nothing particularly special about breathing all day, right? It's something you're going to do. You're going to do it whether you mean to or not. But in focusing on it, we are connecting the thing that gives our body life and the thing that lets our body be nourished and the thing that allows our body to filter out toxins and to release them. There are all these levels that are occurring in our relationships when we sit with our breath. And there's a reason that every major religion, most religions, have a reverence for the breath that is divine. You know, that's why the word for breath is spiritus in the Latin. That's the base of the English language. Much of our language is based from Latin words, right? Of course, there's the Indo-European languages have a lot of different roots and bases, but Latin is a predominant one for a lot of the foundations of our words. We can find roots of our words there. And the word spiritus is where we get the word spirit. It's a modern word spirit, but it means breath. And this is true across cultures. There's other cultures whose word for energy is also the word for breath. Whose word for life is aligned with the word for breath. So there is a very powerful relationship that you have to all of existence with each breath that you take. It's not your breath, you're borrowing it, and you're going to give it right back. And it belongs to everything here. And what you give back actually is needed. And plant life uses that to create oxygen, which you need. And this is how we achieve the balance in our ecosphere and in our bodies and in our emotional sphere. So the very simple practice of breathing is one of the most important things I've ever learned. And you're going to have a practice. You may be practicing breathing into your chest because you're holding in your gut, because you're filled with shame and you wish that you weren't in the body that you're in. But maybe in learning how to consciously breathe into that belly and finding the beauty in a full round belly can allow you to actually start to fall in love with your body. And maybe that'll change the way your body and you relate to one another. Maybe that'll change a lot of things for you. Maybe you'll find safety there. It's really hard to find safety otherwise. If you don't feel safe in your own body, and think about it like this. Would you, if you have a child or maybe you have an animal friend that is part of your family, would you leave them with somebody who talks to them the way that you talk to yourself? It's just a good question. Would you leave a 4-year-old with somebody who tells them how gross they look in that outfit or how they are just not as good as other people? Would you do that? Could you ride in a car ride for a few hours with somebody who is telling you all of these terrible things about you? Would you want to have that person be your life mate, your roommate, your best friend, if the predominant ways that they spoke to you and about you was detrimental and harmful? You are going to be with you until the day you leave your body. Why would you foster and practice a relationship of hatred, anger, resentment, guilt, and shame? But we do. We practice these things. So with an intentional practice every day, we can change that. And I started mine with breath and body movement. And I started changing the ways that I relate to myself sexually, romantically, aromantically, intimately with other people. How do I relate to affection with others? How do I relate to emotional conveyance with others? Do I use my emotions as a weapon and manipulate relationships, or do I use my emotions as a guiding tool to allow me to understand what I need in that moment? And if I understand what I need, I can start it to provide myself with that, so I am not taking from others all the time. I can then come to a relationship with a level of deeper wholeness and understanding and compassion. It all begins with breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, finding relaxation in your body, finding the inflammation going down, finding your shoulders relax and your eyes, and your furrow in your brow, letting that go. Stopping your defensive posture will stop your defensiveness in conversations. And we're not perfect. And as much as we practice it, we're going to have moments where we lash out because we feel pain. We're going to have moments where we argue or fight or resist or throw fits. This happens. And the practice there is to just go back to the breath and believe for just a moment that you're okay. As you breathe and you teach your body that you're okay. And then you can relax and you can say, hey, I'm sorry. I was checked out for a moment. I was running like hell from my suffering. And I'm sorry that I did that with you. And I want to try this again. And we show up. So that's why the breathing is foundational for me. My intention today was to come on here and just do breathing. I was just going to come on and say, we're just going to breathe today. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to rant. 28 minutes later. So there it is. But sometimes I think that that's okay. So let's take a few breaths together before we go. Just find your meditation posture, however it is that you need to sit to help facilitate your body to breathe easier. Right? The facilitation of your breath means to facilitate means to make something easier. So letting your body facilitate the breathing, everything becomes a devotional practice to breath. Let's hear the sound of the bell. And with the sound of the bell, breathing in gently through the nose to fill the bottom of the belly. Breathing in. And release. Breathing in. And release. Find your rhythm. When you breathe in, really feel the breath as you expand your neck, your shoulders, your back, facilitating the body, bringing that air all the way in. Your belly rises not because it's filling with air, but your diaphragm is pushing downward into the body, making room by pushing your organs around and filling the belly. And your lungs are filled with the air. This movement strengthens your diaphragm, which helps strengthen your core muscles, which also helps to massage your organs, which increases digestion, which helps with bowel movements and the release of hormones from pituitary glands. And it tells the body what's needed to relax the muscles. So oxytocin gets released into the muscles to relax from the cortisol, and that lets the inflammation go down in your joints. And all the while, you are lovingly embracing your own body. That's the mindset you want to maintain, that loving mindset to yourself, caring for yourself, maintaining that and sustaining it after your practice into your day. You come into relationships with others and you are maintaining a loving space. That's very powerful. Breathing in. Breathing out. Thanks for being here this morning. I really appreciate this space and I really appreciate your participation. So you can send me a message, journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. You can find us on Substack. In fact, I'm going to throw that into the chat room right now. Hopefully this chat comes through, but there's a link there. If you click that, you'll be able to find uh, where Journey Home Meditation is trying to formulate a home base. We're moving away from um, Facebook, and as soon as I get the functionality down a bit more, we'll have that completely done. But we've started the transition in October, and we're just doing our best to get a flow happening at Substack. So subscribe; it's free, um, and interact, please. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'd love to hear your experience with dissociation and reassociating with your body. Um, I'd love to know what it's like for you when you breathe with intention and with loving kindness. Thanks for being here. Adios.